Welcome back to my mental health and crime channel. My name is Huda London. I'm a licensed cognitive behavior therapist and a licensed mental health counselor. I'd like to start by welcoming everyone. I would love to start by wishing everyone a lovely and blessed Thanksgiving and a happy weekend. The reason that I started this channel was to spread awareness, especially as a licensed cognitive behavior therapist, that's a CBT therapist, and a licensed mental health counselor. Please like, share, and subscribe. I would like to talk a bit about the case that has been going around social media for a very long time. I wouldn't say a long time, but it's 2 weeks on Sunday, and it seems to be like 2 months. It is the case of the four students in Idaho, Moscow, Idaho, who were found brutally stabbed and murdered. This was a very, to start with, heartbreaking, because it was a tragedy that four young students who had a bright future ahead of them, who were in university. Two of them, I believe, were freshmen and two were seniors. They definitely had plans in the future, plans ahead. They had loved ones, families who are mourning their loss as we speak. This happened in Moscow, Idaho. It's a small town in Idaho that has 25,000 residents. On Sunday, there will be 2 weeks ago almost, on Sunday around 11:55 or 59 in the afternoon, law enforcement was called to the address in Kings Road because a student or a person was found unconscious on the floor. When law enforcement came to the scene, it turned to be much more worse than they expected. Four students were brutally murdered in a 6 bedroom house. The house is like, there's a ground floor, there's a first floor, or you can call it the second floor and third floor. So in this house, there were 5 students who were living there, and one of the victims that died was murdered there. Condolence to all four of the families of these young students. One of them was a boy called Ethan, and Ethan spent the night over with his girlfriend, longtime girlfriend, called Zena. So what happened basically is when law enforcement was called, they discovered 4 students that were slain, that were murdered. And at the start, law enforcement, when they announced it out, they said that this was an isolated situation, it was a targeted situation, and they even said at the start that this was a crime of passion. This set a lot of concerns in the neighborhood, obviously among the university campus students, and obviously the small community of Moscow. But law enforcement did not immediately come and do a press conference. I can imagine they were gathering evidence, but it's always, as law enforcement, it is always best to come out as soon as possible to calm down the people and to tell them if this is something the public need to be concerned about and be aware about. There was a lot of mixed informations going on at the start and a lot of rumors. Law enforcement came out after 2 days. They did a press conference, I believe, on the Tuesday, 2 days later, and they apologized for being late, but they started by the press conference by saying, "We're here now." So they said that they would advise all the students and everyone in the community to be on alert, to be safe, to lock your doors, and they still called it up to today a targeted incident. And I believe, this is my personal beliefs, this is all for speculation, not speculation, this is for entertainment purpose only. But I believe they meant by targeted that the person, whoever did this, was out for the four or maybe two or one of the students that was murdered there. There were two other students that were sleeping in the ground floor in their own bedrooms. Luckily, they were unharmed. They are the ones who found one of the victims unconscious on the floor, and they decided to call other friends who lived nearby. I believe 4 or 5 of them came to the scene. That's before they called law enforcement. One of the friends called from one of the girls, the surviving victims' phone, and they called law enforcement and they told them that somebody was unconscious. That's how this whole case started blowing up. Unfortunately, the 4 students were dead. Obviously, they were murdered, brutally murdered. Autopsy was done after a couple of days, and it said the lady that did the autopsy, the doctor who did the autopsy, said that two or one of the, I believe more than one, of the victims that were slain had defensive wounds, so that means obviously they were trying to fight back. After all this, the autopsy was done, we started hearing a bit of information from law enforcement, but obviously they're not telling us much, and I can understand the reason they're not doing that is so that they keep the investigation close to their chests or the vest. We do understand by leaking out or by telling more information about that, then the the suspect will be more aware what law enforcement are searching for and will start trying to cover up his tracks. Law enforcement has not released a 911 call, but all we know is that somebody from the house used one of the surviving roommates' device and called law enforcement. It's going to be 14 days, 2 weeks on Sunday, and today we're on Friday, so it's like this is the 12th day. Not much information has been out there. I believe there's been 3 or 2 press conferences did by law enforcement. There was a lot of Q&A, questions and answers, but there wasn't a lot that law enforcement were willing to share with the public. So obviously when you don't share information for whatever reason, speculations and rumors start surfacing, because we are living in the time of internet and easy access to people talking to each other, whether it's on social media like YouTube, like TikTok, Facebook, etc. So this led to a lot of speculations. Let me start by clearing some of the speculations. There were some rumors going around that the students were tied up. That was untrue. Law enforcement has made that clear. And there are certain people that law enforcement, sorry guys, I've just been down with the flu a bit. there's some of the suspects that law enforcement has cleared out or say are not people of interest. Basically, let's go back to the timeline. On that Saturday evening, um, Madison and Kaylee, they both, the best friends, the two blonde girls, went out. They went to a place called the Club or the Club Corner. They spent from 10 o'clock to 1:45 a.m. over there. And then they went to a food truck where we saw this guy who looked a bit suspicious and his behavior was a bit suspicious too. He had on the cap, a black cap, a white hoodie, and a brown jacket. We saw that he was standing and talking to another guy who was a bit larger than him. And that guy, I believe his name is Joe, has actually said on TikTok, on Facebook, on social media that he doesn't know the guy from before, but he spoke to him then. He was just trying to make conversation, and the guy told him that he was there to protect the girls. The girls left without him, which I found to be kind of a red flag. I wouldn't say a red flag, but a bit suspicious. Because if you're there to protect someone and if you came with the person, obviously you're supposed to leave with the person because you're there to protect them. But it didn't happen that way. You could see the girls leaving without them. You could see the girls playing with their phones. They were taking pictures of each other, taking pictures of the grub truck and the ordered spaghetti and something like that. They left without the guy, and law enforcement has ruled out that guy because there was a lot of speculations with that guy, and that was earlier on. So the law enforcement said he's not a person of interest. Then there was another man who drove the girls home, a private cab or a private car. They said that that person wasn't a person of interest either. So we have those two to start with. Then the girls came home, the two blonde girls, Maddie and Kaylee Gonzalez, I believe. And the other girl, Zena and her boyfriend, Ethan, were in another party in the campus and they came home around 1:40, 1:45. But the sister of Kaylee said, to be exact, it was 1:46. And she found it important that because law enforcement said it was 1:45, but she corrected it on CNN and she said it was 1:46. She said it's important for her that everything is accurate so that they can find out what exactly happened through the timeline, obviously. Um, Somewhere between 1:45 up to 11:30 in the afternoon, till one of the friends was found unconscious and law enforcement and 911 was called. Within those period of time, somebody came and murdered these four innocent, beautiful souls, which is so sad. I give my deepest condolence to their families. Nobody, no child. I'm a parent myself. I have a child. My oldest daughter is 25, 26 years old now. So this really breaks my heart. I can imagine losing your child. And I have two sons who are teenagers. So this could have been any of our children, my nephews, my nieces. So it is really sad to see what happened and in such a scary and horrible manner. Around close to 3 a.m. in the midnight at night, it was said that Kaylee Gonzalez called Jack, her ex-boyfriend, 10 times, and Madison called Jack too. That's Kaylee, her best friend, his ex-boyfriend. Jack and Kaylee were together for many years. They were taking a break, according to Kaylee's parents, and the parents do not believe that Jack is involved. Law enforcement has ruled out Jack, but there are rumors speculating that Jack sold his car the day this incident happened, or the day after, his white pickup car. You, I personally believe that it is kind of a coincidence. It could be kind of a red flag, but it doesn't necessarily mean. Maybe he could have sold it because there's too many memories there, and maybe he could have sold it because he was on the way of selling it before this happened. Maybe he sold it because he wanted to get rid of evidence. But I would love to know why the girls were so occupied calling Jack. We did notice when they were at the food grub that they both were a bit tipsy, a bit intoxicated. I wouldn't say completely drunk, but I would say they were in a good mood. And they were, yeah, you could see that they've had a couple of drinks. So I wonder, is it just a person who drank and just missed their ex-boyfriend, and since they share a dog and they still have regular contact, they talk to each other every day, was that the reason they called? Or did they call Jack because one of the girls or both of the girls saw something, or maybe somebody passed them a threat, or maybe someone was stalking them? So it is really interesting to find out what was the reason they called Jack. And it's been almost 2 weeks. Nothing new has come out about this of any suspect, or law enforcement definitely has a lot more than they're willing to share with us. Obviously, not to tamper the evidence. They don't want the killer to understand that law enforcement are out for him. But this was a really really wicked killing. This was a really sad, terrible loss for all the families, and this is just scary. All the students went back home. Most of the students left the campus immediately. They went for early Thanksgiving, which I do not blame them. If I had my, if it was me, or if I had one of my family members in the university or my own children, I would have definitely advised them to leave the place and come home and do some homeschooling just until they find who is responsible, because people are saying different things. Although law enforcement are saying that this could is a targeted situation, I personally believe that it is more than targeted. The reason that I say that is now I'm looking at it as the mental health perspective side. For somebody to be so bold and have the audacity to come into a house which is like has 6 bedrooms, so he doesn't know who's awake, who's sleeping. Like if it was a random person, it's like just playing Russian roulette and just coming inside a house, and you don't know if the people have guns, if the people can defend themselves whatsoever. But for a person to have deliberately come inside, I believe personally that this person knew the layouts of the house. When people say that he did not go into the other two surviving victims' rooms because it was locked, or because they weren't targeted, or because they were asleep, or maybe I've heard some people saying that he did not know that there was an under basement or underground, like underfloor. I don't believe that, because when I look at it from my personal point of view, and when I look at it when I'm using my mental health skills, I'm not, this is just speculation. I personally believe that this is a person who studied the house, who studied the layouts of the house. Whether it was a targeted attack, I do agree with law enforcement in some way, but I believe that it was targeted especially to these 4 students and not to the other 2 students. I believe he was stalking one of these 4 students. It could be that I personally believe he could have actually come for one of the 2 best friends, Madison or Kaylee. And allegedly, it's been saying Kaylee had a stalker, so we don't know how much truth is in that. But the reason I say that is because To start with, it was the two girls who were up late calling Jack. We haven't heard much about the other two being up. So I believe that I think it's really important to go back and check what happened not only the night before, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks before, even 2 months before, because there was a stalker in the university with a black hoodie and a black pant who was, I believe, on a bicycle. I'm not sure about the bicycle part, but I've heard that flashing a knife on the students. And it was even asked on the first press conference, and law enforcement confirmed that, and the university said they reported the guy to law enforcement. It's strange that law enforcement haven't spoke much about that, but I believe that the person who came flashing a knife in the school was bold enough to do that in a university campus with cameras around. So it could be possible this is the same person that came to the house. And I don't mean to be at all like disrespecting the four victims that are dead, but allegedly many students are saying that there should be a lot of parties in this house. So it could have been somebody, if it's a random person, you know how people could be, he could be watching the neighborhood and thinking, how come this house, the lights are always on, music is loud, there are young, pretty girls who live there. Such things can draw attention when there's parties in the place. And we've even heard that many people have the code to come inside the house. So that is one of the reasons that I personally believe that this was somebody who knew the layouts of the area, because if it was a random person, he would have been causing more destruction. Like by coming in, he would have made more noises, he could have woke them all up and all that. I believe this was somebody who either knocked the door and they let him in, and they didn't expect him to come to do that. I believe at the same time, when I look at it in the psychological way, I personally believe that this is a person who must have been, who must have tried it on one of the girls, tried checking them up, and they must have rejected him. And he must have certain serious mental health issues like antisocial personality disorder. Not all antisocial personality disorder people are mental health in the mental health illness. Many of them just are function normal, but they, how do I put it, they usually have no empathy. They all have that in common: no empathy, no remorse with people who have antisocial personality disorder. Psychopaths, you can say, the old term used to be sociopaths, but it is definitely a person who has psychopathic behaviors, because this person had no empathy, obviously. He managed to kill the four people, brutally stabbed them to death. We don't know which of them was sleeping and which of them was awake. I personally believe this could be somebody who had, just my opinion, I believe, I've thought of it a lot. It has to be someone who had the skills to use this hunting knife or whatever, the combat knife that he used. It could be possibly a person who's trained using this knife, like the animal that we heard about. We don't know if it's linked directly to about the dog that was skinned like a fish fillet or something like that. Poor dog. So what I'm trying to say is this could be a person who must have been out on hunting with his father, and he must have learned to use this knife and all. For someone to attack and kill four people in such a manner, I believe it is not someone who's new to a knife. I would be looking more at people who play around with knives, who watch a lot of yeah, movies or such kind of documentaries, maybe to find out how to get away with a crime or how to do it. I'll give you a very good example. The reason I say that is If you remember Suzanne Morphew, may she be found, or may God bless her soul if she's not around. When Barry Morphew killed Suzanne Morphew, or allegedly he did something to his wife, he got away with the murder, but we all have that idea. Most of us know that he was behind it. But when you think about it, it was said that Barry Morphew used to listen to iPod crime channels about serial killers and how to get away with murder. He used to he used to watch the radio, and he used to follow all these things when he was driving to work and driving back from work. So that's the reason I say this person could be a person who was following, watching how to do brutal attacks. That is very possible. He must have tried it on animals. That is a typical psychopathic behavior. And he must have, if it is a person with antisocial personality disorder, I am sure if they check his case study when he was much younger, they would find a lot of maybe burning down farms or houses or trying to burn them down. Arson is a real symptom of antisocial personality disorder in their teens, but it doesn't necessarily always have to be. It's always usually something linked with no empathy, hurting people, scamming people, criminal backgrounds, uh, such kind of things. So, and the fact that he killed the four people. Guys, I make another clip of this. There's somebody knocking at my door, but I'll come back to this part. Thank you very much. Have a lovely day.